Thank you for your patience. For those of you joining and just entering in today, great to see you. We are here for an important conversation, and I'm just want to make sure that I'm at. I am streaming. I think it's streaming live. I always want to make sure that all of the systems are connected. And as always, great to be here with you. My name is Amanda Hinman. I'm the founder of the Hormone Freedom Method, and we are having some important conversations. If you're new to my channel, new to tuning in here, those of you who are on Zoom, happy to be here with you in the room. Some are streaming on Instagram and on Substack. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I would like to start off by just getting centered and hearing a little bit about what's going on. So I invite you to share, put one word into the chat, or if you're watching on the live stream, please put one word into your chat, and I'll be coming back to watch those messages too. How has your body been feeling this week? So Deirdre, Whitney, Jessica, I'd love to hear more about what's coming up. How has your body been feeling this week? It's always really good that we do a check-in and see kind of where we're at, where are we starting today. And again, those of you that are joining and coming back to watch the replay, please let me know if you are watching it live. You can type live into the chat. If you're coming back later to watch the replay, please type replay in, because I will come back and check those messages and any questions that you have so that I can be able to support you in the best way possible. I'm seeing some people put tired, a little overwhelmed. Okay, you're definitely not alone if you're in that space. Curious. Okay, good. That's a great place to be. It's like if we're in that place of feeling a little fatigued, a little overwhelmed, I want to know that you're not alone, and any way you show up is exactly how you're supposed to be. Deirdre, were you going to say something?
I'm trying to.
Yeah. Well, how are you feeling today?
Um, Fat.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I appreciate that. It's it feels like things are just heavy and stuck.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
Well, I'm glad you're here. You are definitely in the right place, and this is what we're going to be talking about today. And you're not, and the other thing is, I want to know you are not alone, right? So this is a conversation. This is why we have these conversations, is because I think part of it is recognizing that things have shifted and changed, and I think the conversation around women's health is such an important aspect of changing. How we start to approach it, how we're thinking about it today is what I'm so passionate about. So if you're in that stuck place, if you're in that fat place, if you're in that heavy place, that's a-okay. Whitney saying feeling good, lots of fresh air, but feeling fat also. Okay, so again, just normalizing that there's nothing wrong with us, and we get to look at how to create this shift, because you guys are mimicking and saying the same thing that I hear over and over and over, that right now women over 40 are actually doing more than ever to try and improve their health. This is not about lack of discipline. This is not about laziness. I mean, I can't tell you how many women are tracking their macros. They're trying intermittent fasting or cutting carbs. They're using AI and different tools and wearing, the Aura rings and all of the things to try and get data and information about how to optimize and how to improve their health. In fact, the statistics show that the term perimenopause, that's like the new buzzword, that is the trend in health news. The Google searches for the word perimenopause have increased over 300% in the past couple of years. 300%. So people are definitely having this, and they're looking and seeking answers. Millions of women every month are trying to figure out what's happening to their body. So this is not because of lack of interest or prioritization or lack of trying. And yet, so many of us feel exhausted, feel more inflamed, feel fat, feel fatigued, like we just said, feel more frustrated than ever. So again, I just want to normalize this and say, like, we're going to help weed through this together. It's about kind of clearing out the noise and the debris. So I want to offer you a different lens today. If what you've been doing is not working and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just ready to throw up my hands in the air. A lot of times I call this why bother syndrome. when we get to that place of, I was like, why am I even trying? This isn't changing anything. I want you to know that it's not about, perhaps you may not necessarily be doing the wrong things, but what if you're focused on an entirely different system? And this is where we're going to be diving deeper. Most conversations around women's health are focused on hormones and estrogen and progesterone and cortisol and insulin. We hear a lot about insulin and blood sugar control and all of that for weight. But hormones do not operate in isolation. They're part of this whole communication system. In fact, I always think of hormones are the messenger molecules in the body. And so that communication system starts to shift when our hormone levels change, especially after age 40. And that system affects a lot of things happening in the brain as well. Now, we're going to dive into all of this and kind of give you some of the pieces and the key core differentiators. But before we do, I know several of you have tuned in to this Hormone Freedom Hour that happens every week on Wednesday. It's your chance to plug in, get some new distinctions, have some new inspiration and clarity. And you've asked, oh my gosh, Amanda, I missed it at the end when you talked about how I can get some support so I don't have to do this alone. Your first step, if you want some support to really sift through the weeds, is to step into the Hormone Freedom 30-day clarity experience. That's where you and I partner together. We do a deep dive and look at what is coming up, what your body is signaling is the number one priority to focus on first to get some traction. So I'll go ahead and pop that into the link into the chat right now. If you know, like, I don't want to keep doing this alone. I don't want to keep spinning my wheels. Check out the Hormone Freedom 30-day clarity experience. That is your chance to get some momentum forward and get some clarity. But like I said, we're going to be talking today about why your body has shifted, why some things are now different, and the mistakes, the common rules that we got away with when we were in our 30s and our 20s that worked well, no longer apply once we're over the age of 40 and 45. But right now, it's important to know that 1 out of 4 American women in midlife are on antidepressants. That's staggering. And prescriptions for GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy have increased over 300% in the last few years. Again, this is not because of lack of effort. This is not because women are just ill-informed or not trying. It's because there has been an emphasis on some of the wrong areas that are keeping us stuck. And that's why these women have needed to turn towards different tools for management, right? So it's not that they're lazy. It's not that they're doing anything wrong. It's that they have been told, here are the things to do, and this is what they're the rules that kind of used to apply. I'm gonna mention 3 rules that I don't know if I'll be curious to see how these relate. The first rule is that we learned and we're indoctrinated with is if you want to lose weight, you have to eat less and exercise more, right? That's at the very core. And logically, that can be effective to an extent, right? That can be effective for a period of time and to a certain extent because there is a thermogenesis reality to calorie consumption and utilization. However, so many women have been doing that, taken that too far and to the extreme that it's actually broken their metabolism. Their metabolism is no longer working and operating at a high, efficient, effective rate. And so it's created stagnation and storage, fat storage. So eat more or eat less, exercise more is the rule number 1 that in our 30s used to be effective. The second rule that I think comes up is as a mom, as a wife, as a daughter, as a team member, as a coworker, you push through. You take care of everyone's needs. You're the one that's kind of, I think of a lot of us women, we kind of step into this like unspoken CEO of the household role, right? We're managing all of the kids' schedules. We're taking care of the meals. We're organizing all of the logistics that have to go, like who needs to get where and what are all the requirements that need to make sure that they just happen, to keep the laundry going, to keep the house clean. We also, many of us are working, right? So we're balancing careers, we're balancing team. So it's really a matter of kind of push through, whether it be like caffeinate your way through, and that go is no longer working. And it gets really, really obvious as we, surpass age 40. The next one is rule number 3 is being disciplined and doing more if it's not working. So again, when we were younger in our 20s and our 30s, it's like, ooh, I kind of fell off track. Okay, I need to be more rigid. I need to be more disciplined and start doing more. And that's what's going to make the progress. That's what's going to give me the results. So can anyone, I want to just pause and check in here. Can anyone see some part of them that resonates with those 3 rules? Have you just put into the chat if it's the eat less, exercise more, if it's, hey, everyone else's needs are a priority and I have to kind of like be the manager, the CEO of everything. And therefore your self-care, your prioritization gets put back behind the list. Or if it's, I got to just be more disciplined. I got to be more strict. I got to do more in order to get the results I want. Do any of those relate to where you're at? Yes. Okay. Amazing guidance. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that feedback. What I'd love to hear what's coming up for definitely number 2 and number 3. Yep. As you're the wife, you're the mom, you're the one that organizes everything. You're the household CEO, if you will, that kind of everyone else's needs come first. And then doing more, be more disciplined, be harder on yourself. Honestly, a lot of times it's like we criticize ourselves. Be more disciplined. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I've started, let's see, someone else, I've started prioritizing me thanks to your help this month on the clarity journey, but before that, all 3. Absolutely, Whitney, right? I think, like I said, this is common. This is almost like the programs I talk a lot about with clients in our one-on-one work. We unconsciously download programs about the way the world is and about the way that we show up and the way our health works based on what we observed at a really, really young age, from like birth through age 7. So if that was what you were observing, think about your home environment, think about what your mom did, think about what was around you on the commercials and what were the messages around you. That was where you downloaded your unconscious understanding of the way to be healthy. So during my young years, that was all about low fat, no fat, like Jane Fonda, all the things. It's like exercise, do more, go running, all the things. That was what our unconscious part of our brain absorbed and learned. This is the way to be healthy. Well, no wonder that is like backfiring and this is not working for us anymore. So really what I want to share is that no one told us that the rules have changed. It's not because you're failing. You've just been playing with the wrong playbook, right? Now, here's the key. Your brain and your body are operating in a completely different environment right now. And I always like to give a couple of visuals. So give me a moment here as I share, just to see what has changed, when that pops up. Okay, so you can see what has changed in our body. So really, our body becomes more sensitive to stress. Once your hormone levels start to change, your estrogen and progesterone and testosterone levels start to decline and drop off after age 40, or for some women, it's closer to 45. Your body, those hormone signals, those messenger molecules are responding differently, and it's more sensitive to stress. So the effects of cortisol and the effects of epinephrine become amplified in your body. This means that you're less tolerant of underfueling and having blood sugar swings. So if we are grabbing coffee first thing in the morning before getting some good nourishment in, or if we're working and kind of pushing, have a lot of back-to-back meetings and pushing through and not having lunch, especially not a good stable meal at lunch, that blood sugar swing is going to have a much larger impact on our body than it did 10 years ago. It's just going to have an amplified effect. So that means our body is faster to start to protect your energy. It goes into conserve mode. When we're conserving, it's not letting go of things, it's holding on to things. And that means we are most responsive to safety and consistency rather than intensity. And this is why it happens. This is not failure, this is adaptation. Our hormones work in this interconnectedness, this chain of how things signal throughout the body. And you'll notice what's at the top. The hypothalamus and the pituitary glands are located in the brain. The hypothalamus has a lot to do with our thoughts and our beliefs and our perceptions about how we are interpreting our daily life. So I don't know about you, but I used to live in this space where I had a really unhealthy relationship with time. I was always having this internal dialogue that I don't have time. I don't have time to get my walk in. I don't have time to stop and take some recovery. I don't have time to stop and have lunch, right? So that thought pattern was a reoccurring loop that then signaled to the rest of my body, like, oh, whoa, 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 we're running low. We have a lack of time, a lack of bandwidth. We better hold on to what we have. We better preserve and we better protect, right? So you can see how that starts to signal to the adrenals about the stress response, about if it's safe, right? If it's safe to have your immune system work at a really high level so that you can fight off infection, so that you can avoid having food allergies and food sensitivities, so that you can have really strong cellular recycling practices happening so it doesn't create rogue cells that can later become cancerous. I mean, these things seem like they're all related in different ways. And we have a consistent stress response happening. It dampens the immunity and puts us at risk for not only allergies and food sensitivities and skin irritations, but greater type of immune dysregulation. And it also affects our metabolism. So I like to stop here and just kind of share a little bit about how these patterns show up. And there's really, we can see how the body is changing. It's more sensitive to stress when those hormone levels shift. And it brings us into what I see as these really common patterns. There are three types of patterns that help us to understand what your body is responding to and what your body needs as a first priority for health. The first pattern is what I call energy and output fatigue. This is where, honestly, this is where your body is just can't keep up with the demand. The woman who pushes through, the woman who starts strong, and you may be disciplined at first, but then you're not, right? It's like, it's not, you don't have that bandwidth. Or the person who, like, I get to 3 p.m. and I'm just like wiped out. My brain focus is gone. I don't have that same level of like energy and enthusiasm. Sometimes you just feel flat. Like, oh, I don't ever feel like a zest or a sense of aliveness in life. That can be a sign that there's like this energetic mismatch, and your demand is not able, your metabolism is not able to keep up with the demand. It's just gotten stagnant and slow. So that's type one. The type two, most common, is stress response. This is when we have an overactivated stress response in the body. And it can be, usually it's not like we think of acute stress when we have a big major life circumstance, or, you know, an ailing parent, or a work, you know, blow up or something that happened with our team. Those can be acute stressors, things that really, really kind of, you know, last for maybe a day or two and really just, you know, are much more acute in the moment. But what's often the case is just simmering chronic underlying stress levels that don't have adequate recovery. And this is where you can swing between both. If we have an overactive stress response, it can look like racing thoughts. Your mind can't settle down, hard to fall asleep at night and just truly unwind and feel restored. Or it can swing to the other way where it's absolutely like where you're not from hypervigilant, you're really, really low. Like your energy is low, you're crashed out, you're exhausted and depleted. Like you just can't get that juice for the day. So stress response is type two. And then type three pattern that I see as a first priority to focus on is fueling and digestion challenges. This can look like when you're undernourished, your cells don't actually have what they need to function at a high level, and physically, emotionally, mentally, you can, you know, just feel depleted, feel like I don't have the bandwidth, or I don't have the support, the nourishment that I need. A lot of times this actually can look like we don't have the own self-care and sense of self-worth. We're going to be talking about that a little bit more. But I'm going to pop over here one more time again. Hi, Nikki. Great to have you here with us. And I would like to share a little bit about what does it look like to see these patterns, and where can we find, again, several of us, you may, and please put into the chat if you recognize one of these patterns, either the energy and output type 1, energy and output fatigue. There's likely a metabolic metabolism um, shift that's been slowing you down. Stress response, if it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just overwhelmed. I'm either wired but tired or completely exhausted. Or that feeling and digestion challenges. This is where you notice a lot of times it's like, oh, there's like constipation, there's bloating. It seems like you just can't really feel comfortable with how you're able to take in nourishment and feel fully supported. This is where we also have blood sugar swings and things like that. So just put it to the chat. I'd love to hear as you're tuning in and hearing which one stands out for you. And I invite you at this time, we'll actually drop into the chat your opportunity to take the Hormone Freedom Assessment. It's a few minutes, it's free. It's going to ask you a handful of questions about the different ways that this shows up in your life to see like what pattern is your body operating from most loudly, right? Sometimes I have some people say like, oh, I see myself in 1 and 2. Oftentimes there are overlaps here, but what is the thing that's really speaking out the loudest that we know, okay, your body is saying, I need some love, some TLC and some attention here. So let's see. Jessica says, I think I'm a 2. Yes. Okay, 2, stress response. So maybe you've been living with that chronic stress for a period of time. Anyone else is seeing what's coming up, what's really standing out for you as you think about how this is showing up. Whitney also 2, stress response. Yes. That is definitely this is a common pattern, right? And I want you to know you're not random, you're patterned. And this is about where we want to have that clarity to know how to support your body. I want to give you a real example with one of my clients, Debbie. She's an attorney, working mom, 2 kids, working about 45, 50 hours a week. You know, she had tried everything. When we first started working together, she had tried Weight Watchers, she had tried Noom, she had tried Hold 30. So it's not for lack of effort here. She wasn't lazy. In fact, she wasn't even inconsistent. She's like, I can follow the plan. Like, if you give me the plan, I can follow the plan. But she was following advice that didn't match her body anymore because a lot of the plans that she had been trying were in a calorie deficit, right? So that whole programming that we used to always hear, eat less, move more. And her pattern was in that stress response pattern. So what we discovered is actually her metabolism was not healthy enough. Like it wasn't, there was like a mismatch. She wasn't healthy enough to really be in a deficit. In fact, she had been on diets for years, decades. So like her body was constantly been in this like stuck deficit dieting, yo-yo kind of on and off phase for many, many years. And even though she wasn't like, you know, didn't have that metabolic function, she's like, I'm following the plan, but I'm still not seeing the translation. I'm not seeing my energy levels improve. I'm not seeing that change. So what we needed to do was really get her a practice to calm the nervous system, to help her nervous system heal first. And that was the first priority. And then by doing that and layering in what is the right mix of her nutrient choices and her metabolism was able to be healed. Essentially, it kicked into gear. It's like once your body knows, like, oh, you're listening, you're working with me, it starts to shift and change things. So everything changed. She went from 185 pounds down to 151 pounds. She was able to, over time, reduce her anxiety medication that she had been on. She was able to lower her body fat, increase her muscle, and really live with more peace of mind. Because again, she was working with her body. She trusted her body. And it's not like that's not like my body's broken. Nothing ever works. She was able to sidestep out of the pattern of like, it will never work for me and really see the progress and the momentum. So the key here is to see the patterns. And now that you can see some of the patterns, I want to go into these 3 mistakes in a little bit more detail and give you what's the solve, like what's the fix that we need to lean into for each of those. So that first mistake, that eat less, exercise more, this is where we talk about that type 1 energy and output mismatch. I usually call this like a metabolic mismatch. This is where your metabolism needs to be healed first. This usually is like when we've been taught to, for just like Debbie was for decades, to cut, reduce, restrict food and use that, like look at calories, look at fat, we're trying to cut all that down. And over time, that has actually put the body into that overwhelm stress response mode. Like the body just cannot handle and metabolism slow down. Your body feels unsafe, right? It doesn't feel like it has what it needs to be able to recover and to meet the demands, and it holds on to weight. So what is the solution? We have to rebuild trust and reverse diet. It's actually start by fixing the metabolism rather than cutting the deficit. It's actually more nourishment. It's better timing with your nourishment so you don't have these blood sugar swings. And it's listening to your body. It's actually learning how to listen and recognize those hunger cues. So many women who tell me, like, I don't even wake up hungry. Like, I don't eat breakfast because I'm not hungry. Well, that to me is like ding, ding, ding. That's a red flag sign that the brain is not communicating effectively to the rest of your body, and your metabolism is broken, right? It's not even sending the right signals to say, hey, we need nourishment for our day, right? As you go into the day in the morning when your cortisol is at its highest is when we want to have that nourishment to fuel you for the day so that metabolism will kick into gear and operate at a high level. So when we have that, the fix here is to reverse diet. This means we actually, a lot of times I sit down with people and help them figure out what is the total number of grams of protein and macros and things that your body actually needs. And it's usually higher than what they've been eating temporarily. We want to hold that increase in food without the scale going up. The scale stays steady, but your metabolism charges up. And then we start to introduce a deficit. So it's a little bit slower. It's more intentional, but it's actually healing. Instead of adding to the problem and trying to cut, and keep the body in starvation mode, which indefinitely doesn't work in the long run, this is actually healing when we do it slow and intentional with that reverse diet plan. So that's mistake number one, is the whole idea of eat less, exercise more. Chances are, if you've been doing that for a while and it's not working, we need to fix the metabolism first. So we need to reverse diet, we need to fix your metabolism, and then we can slowly and gradually introduce that deficit to bring the weight loss down further. Mistake number two is what we see in pattern number two, being what I call like CEO of the household for everyone else. I often tend to think of this as also having like that control mindset. You're the one who steps in, puts everyone else's needs first. You're the one who's like, okay, I'm going to try and fix my, run my house, make sure everyone's where they need to be with the carpool, with the, things for school, with the college drop off, with all of the things. Plus you're managing your workload and your team or whatever you're doing. There's just so many things that you are controlling and managing and operating. And you tend to go into control mode and overdrive. This is the type where this is the person who tends to type 2 stress response. They tend to be like, I like to control. I like to have like a game plan, the almost like the control in it, and tend to go through extremes, right? It's either all or nothing. This is the person who likely can start strong, but then can't keep up and falls off. And it's kind of like I can be in overdrive and do all the things, and then it's just like depleted, exhausted. It's not sustainable, right? So here, if you can find yourself in that stress response pattern, or that mistake two, or what I think of as like trying to do everything and being the CEO for everyone, putting everyone else's needs and controlling it all. The fix here is to embrace and adapt an 80-20 mindset. Like we have to get better at identifying where we can take our foot off the gas a bit and have this ceiling versus floor mentality. It's really important to reframe. It's not all or nothing. It's like, I'm going to have some days that are really smooth, high productive days, and then some that are lower energy and just have a different bandwidth. So I need to be able to be flexible. I need to be able to adapt, read my own cues and adapt accordingly. And this is where we have that like ceiling versus floor mentality and different days of how we approach it so that you can do it consistently. Remember, we talked about in the very beginning, after 40, consistency will outwin intensity every single day of the week. So I'd rather have you do fewer things more consistently, because that's what's going to work, than try and do too many things and then fall off. It just it's a breaking pattern. So even on your hardest days, we get to identify what is the simple approach. What is the way that we can help you have that consistency to get, momentum going for you? So that's really the fix. That's the solution that we need to change if we're noticing that it's that control, trying to do it all, stress response, trying to be everything for everyone. And then we have type number three, mistake number three. I talked about this here is, mistake number three was really about how to recognize when you're just trying to do more, right? Being more disciplined, working harder, just trying to do more, adding more into it. This often can affect how our body is able to receive nourishment and digestion. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper here because I see overlap time and time again how we are able to receive nourishment and digestion and absorb and take in and really like care for ourselves has a correlation to how well we can receive support, how well we can receive, just kind of the sense of we are worthy, we can receive, we are willing and able to receive self-love and self-care. And somewhere along the way, you kind of probably learned, maybe through modeling in those early years of your life, what you witnessed in your household or other people, you learn to put everyone else's needs first and not to ask for help for you, or not to prioritize yourself and taking care of yourself with that same dedication, with that same level of prioritization. It's like I come after everyone else. And that can kind of correlate to how we even think about how we nourish ourselves. Are you taking the time to really be intentional and thoughtful with having a good, healthy, nourishing breakfast? With, like I said, taking that break in the middle of the day to step away from work or step away from what you're doing and nourish yourself and care for yourself and absorb and take in good, healthy, real foods for lunch, to make sure you're getting, that adequate sleep and recovery. How we are able to absorb has a lot to do with how we are able to receive. And this is a hard one because it's so common, right? We do. Can anyone relate to this? Like, again, as I'm saying these things, I'd love to hear Nikki, Deirdre, Whitney, those of you watching on the live stream, what's standing out for you? Can you relate to that sense of either putting everyone else's needs first, having troubles with receiving support, receiving help along the way? Yeah, here I'm seeing, I think I'm a mixture, but I'm also feeling like I'm in the very early stages. I do have energy drop, but only sometimes, and it's for like an hour. So I'm not, hold on, I'm not hungry in the morning. I don't get enough protein. I have a low appetite. I don't need to lose weight. I want to build strength. Okay. So this is great. Like sometimes it's like, it's not necessarily about losing weight. It's like, I need to build that strength. So I still need to make sure that I'm getting in adequate nourishment so my body has what it needs fully. Let's see. I'm a giver first. Yes. Okay. So I'm a giver first. I definitely put myself last. Great. So I can even relate. Yeah. Right. Again, we're in good company here. And this is why it gets to be one of the key things is like the turning the page after 40, it's an invitation to turn the page and learn to do things different. Just because it's been that way up until now, we are in a beautiful space, especially when our body starts to talk to us louder and louder through symptoms. It's saying, hey, I'm waving the red flag here, saying something needs to shift and to change. And this is a beautiful opportunity to say how you can have the support. You can allow yourself to receive that support, get some new clarity, I don't know about you, but it's like doing this alone can be very hard and intimidating, but having that guidance, having that support, having somebody to walk through with you and role model what it looks like is a game changer. That's how I was able to heal from my autoimmune diagnosis. Is I didn't do it alone. And the solution here is to keep small promises to yourself. It's starting small and building that self-trust. Because when you can live with that integrity of having something that you know would be good for you and promising yourself that you're going to do that and then following through on that, that's how you increase your sense of self-worth. Self-worth hinges upon self-trust. And self-trust is when you keep promises to yourself. So I need to speed up my metabolism. I eat right and exercise. Okay, so Deirdre's saying for you, it's probably like that metabolic mismatch. We need to fix the metabolism there, which may mean, and this is again where some people are like, that doesn't feel comfortable. I actually may need to go do things different than what I have been doing, where I'm really actually dialed in on how much nutrients my body needs so that it can meet its basal metabolic rate. Plus, if you're exercising on top of that, making sure you're getting enough nourishment so the metabolism can fire again, so it can pick up again and heal before there's a reduction introduced. So I really just like to share all of this because the key here is to recognize what pattern is taking precedent. This, you'll see, we can streamline, we can clarify and make things easier when you have that starting point. And at this point, you probably realize something. You don't necessarily need more information. I mean, we live in a world where there is a ton of information about health. Try flip through Instagram and you'll see it everywhere. What you need is to know what applies to you in your body and a clear roadmap to start to make that progress happen. Right. And this is where I'm going to again introduce my Hormone Freedom 30-day clarity experience. This is all about customization, looking at your body and your body's cues and clues, where it is at, so you can understand what's going on, what's the loudest signal, which type is coming up for you as the first priority. We look at your assessment. We do a deeper dive into your unique health history and identify which pattern needs attention first. And then we go deeper into, okay, is it going to be a metabolic mismatch? Do we need to do some reverse dieting and fix the metabolism? Is it from that control mindset of like, oh, you know what? I really need to focus on the consistency and kind of that 80-20 balance and be more consistent and stable? Or is it, you know what? I want to build up that sense of self-trust and self-worth and nourishment and be able to nourish myself adequately so that I really can have this, start to shift and change. We build that personalized roadmap together. So you are not alone. You're going to have clear actions. And I will say, in 30 days, I'm fully transparent. All of your health symptoms and challenges do not get solved in 30 days. I'm not about trying to, be dishonest and pretend like health is a quick fix pill. However, the key here is to identify what is priority and get momentum, because when you can see momentum, you're building that self-trust. You learn a new way of being and how to support your body at this season of life. And that is a huge momentum shift that changes the trajectory for you. So this is not generic advice. This is no more guessing, no more Googling or guessing, not trial and error. This is deep customization. You receive a one-on-one session with me and then weekly coaching for that month to make sure that you can implement the roadmap that we discuss and help along the way. Usually there's questions or something didn't go as planned. That always happens. That's life. So that's exactly why you get support every week from me. So instead of guessing, you know exactly what your body needs and why. And you have a simple plan. So the Hormone Freedom 30-day clarity experience is only $497, available now. I'll go ahead and put the link in the chat. And this is, again, for the woman who knows, like, I see myself in one or more of these patterns, and I want to get this figured out. We don't want to be waiting another 2 months from now and be in the exact same place and wishing that you had already started to make a change. Right. Unfortunately, I do see that. I've had women who said, like, I've been following you for 6 months. Why did I wait so long? I wish I would have just done something sooner. That's the most important thing. So definitely learning a new way of being. I was getting stressed that it was going to take so long, but you encouraged me to focus on the present. Yes, Whitney, that's so key. Is like taking it one step at a time and seeing how things are shifting and changing. You'll see the change in how you feel. You'll see how your body starts to respond. And I want to make sure I leave any space for any questions. Who has any questions? How can I help with anything that's coming up for you today? Please feel free to type into the chat. And if you're streaming, I know we have visitors on Substack and Instagram as well. Yeah, this is the work, is showing up and learning what has shifted, how we can do this in a slightly new way, working with our body. And I think I talk about this a lot with our clients, our one-on-one clients, because we don't even realize how much that programming that happens in the early years from birth to the first 7 years of life, for the most part. Think of the world that we were living in, the society we were living in. That was almost like an installed program. When you think about your computer and how your computer has software and hardware and it's installed, like you can open up probably and open up, you know, um, maybe it's Word, the Microsoft suites. You can have Word and Excel and things like that. That's installed. Well, these programs about the way health was, or about at least what we used to understand was healthy, were just installed programs. So until we really can recognize them and work with them, it's definitely going to be affecting how we show up. So part of it is having that game plan and that clarity of like really starting to rewire and change these. Let's see. What's more important, diet or exercise, and trying to lose stubborn belly fat as much as I try, it won't go away? Good question. So what's more important, diet or exercise? I would say both impact that stubborn belly fat, but likely belly fat tends to be linked to our stress response, cortisol and norepinephrine. So I would again have you start first with the hormone freedom assessment to see if it is a stress response indication that's showing up. Because believe it or not, diet and exercise absolutely are part of the picture. We know that. If you've been intentional about your diet and exercise and you have a game plan, or at least you feel like you have a plan that normally would be effective, if it's not a metabolic mismatch where we need to do some fixing of the metabolism, it may be that the first priority is we need to change what's stimulating that stress response in the body. The body has two sides of the nervous system, the fight or flight. You hear the sympathetic nervous system or the parasympathetic. That's when you can rest and digest and heal. And sometimes we're just stuck in sympathetic dominant activation. So that can look like mental emotional stressors. It can look like environmental stressors. It can look like physiological stressors. It can even be, and this is why we do in the deep dive one-on-one, it could be from perhaps some gut imbalances or allergies and things that you have that are really causing that chronic simmering stress response. So it may be not that diet and exercise are the only needle movers if we haven't looked at some of these other patterns. So again, I would say, yes, you can put the hormone freedom assessment is in the chat. If you haven't taken that, that is always the first place to start. Clarity, clarity, clarity first, because then that points us in terms of, I look at a root cause approach. My training is in functional medicine, which is a systems approach, looking at how our immune system and our hormones and our digestive system and everything works together, rather than just in isolation, rather than just looking at one hormone like thyroid separately. This is what we do, is putting it together. Okay, so I have another question. What do you think is the main cause of the evening crash? Diet, metabolism, hormone imbalance? Great question, Nikki, and it could be a number of those factors. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I would encourage you to take the hormone freedom assessment to see which pattern is the loudest for you first. Having said that, in terms of evening crash, where I first go is I would have to look at like, what is your like nutrition profile and circadian rhythm like throughout the day, right? Oftentimes women just have inadequate levels of protein and fiber and nutrient dense foods earlier in their day, so that by the time they get later, they're just like running on empty. It's kind of like your cell phone battery, right? If you don't charge your cell phone in fully and you have a 50% charge and then you go into the day, chances are it's going to be on empty later in the day, right? So it could be as simple as that. It could be more of a metabolic pattern. And what I mean by that is sometimes if there's a high cognitive load, if you have a really high demanding job or something like that, like our brain runs on glucose, right? So how are we fueling appropriate to match the demand throughout the day? So that could be something. For some women, it's actually a circadian issue, a circadian rhythm. they have gotten in the routine for whether it be months or even longer of staying up later at night because that's kind of their wind down time. The house is quiet, so they tend to just kind of like, oh, I just kind of veg and crash, and I don't go to sleep until later. And while they're awake, they're looking at stimulating blue light screens and things like that, which are actually sending opposite signal to the brain. So opposite of wind down, it's amping it up. And so that throws off their whole circadian rhythm. So we focus first on like, okay, let's reset the circadian rhythm and some of the hormones signaling there. So there can be different causes of which pattern and which is coming up. And that's again why I think having clarity and having somebody to sift through the weeds with you can be really, really helpful and beneficial. Any other questions here? I do want to make sure, thank you. I get nutrition, but not as much protein. Yeah. So protein, and I'll share here, one of the simple, you guys will hear me talk about this a lot. My simple one-hand meal plan approach. I am all about like, what's something that's going to stick and make it easy. PFFV, protein, fiber, fat, healthy fat, omega-3 fat, and vegetable. If you start to adopt and embrace a one-hand meal plan approach of PFFV at each meal, that is a great foundational level. If we just say, what is the foundation that your body is going to need at a minimum? Protein, at least a full fist size of protein at each meal. Many people, just many women in general, are under consuming protein. Ideally, for most women, again, it depends on your stature, your size, your metabolism, but most women need at least 100 grams of protein per day, some more than that. And at a minimum, a full fist is necessary to get close to that 100 grams of protein per day, a full fist at each meal. The second is fiber-rich foods, really thinking about legumes, whole grains, seeds, fiber-rich foods. Yes, of course, vegetables and fruits have fiber as well, but I tend to think a little bit more dense fiber is important for the gut microbiome. Our gut is such a central component of our health, and it relies on those short chain fatty acids that come from fiber-rich foods in order to synthesize hormones and neurotransmitters, in order to balance and signal appropriately. We need to have fiber regularly. The average woman over 40 is under consuming fiber as well. As a minimum, if you were to think about those beans or nuts and seeds, taking your fist and just scooping a scoop of fiber-rich foods. So what does that look like practically in my life? I mean, I literally got in the habit of buying cans of beans because I'm all about ease, simplicity, and efficiency. So if you open up my pantry, I'll have cans of garbanzo beans and black beans and lentil beans and kidney beans, all sorts of beans. And it's as simple as opening up a can, putting it under a strainer, rinsing it. I usually don't even warm it, it's at room temperature, but I'll throw in 2 spoonfuls of beans over a salad for lunch. If I'm making some type of sauce or pasta or soup, there's always a can of beans thrown into that. So adding beans or other sources of fiber-rich foods at a minimum with each meal is awesome. It's critical. The third is PFF, fat, healthy omega-3 fatty acids. These again are things like nuts, walnuts are great sources, salmon, other fish, avocados, olive oil. Healthy omega-3 fatty acids are important. Our body uses those healthy fats to make hormones. So we need healthy fat. It also uses those to repair cell membrane, the outside layer of the cell. If we don't have enough healthy fat, that can be correlated with actually elevated levels of cholesterol, because your liver will produce cholesterol when it needs to repair the cell membrane. Well, if we don't have enough healthy fat that we're consuming, it will make more cholesterol to try and make those cell membranes. So I'm simplifying these, but just so you can see correlation to these patterns. And then finally, vegetables. I always lead with vegetables. Fruits are beneficial too, but majority of women that I work with under consume vegetables as compared to fruits. Vegetables tend to have a lower glycemic impact. They have more minerals. Many vegetables are grown in the soil. Minerals are found in the soil. So if you think of things like parsnips and onions and carrots and garlic, those things, even broccoli, all of these things come from the soil more closely. So protein, fiber, healthy fat, and vegetable. Oh, I didn't share fat at a minimum, depending on the type of fat, like a thumb size serving of fat, if you're drizzling some olive oil over a salad, or slice or two of avocado. And vegetable, we want a whole entire fist of vegetables at each meal. Yes, even breakfast. That's a great way to think about as a foundation, getting those in for your meals. So that was an overview of our baseline approach. Now, obviously, we can customize it further if we're doing some repair of your metabolism. It needs to be a little bit more strategic and dialed in, but that's a great foundational place to start. Any other questions? So great to be here with you ladies today. And I do want to mention, we'll be back here again next Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time for our next Hormone Freedom Hour session. This, again, we're going to be talking about the hidden cost of healthy, what your best habits are actually doing to your hormones, and what to keep, what to shift, and exactly where to start. So please invite a friend. Find a woman that you know that could benefit from being in this conversation, having some more clarity and some encouragement to really put her health in a new path forward. I invite you to share the link, join us again next week. Having these things come up again and again is where you get that synthesized change. So I'm so excited to be here with you. I'll put into the chat one more time, the Hormone Freedom 30-day clarity experience. Like I said, it is now $497 for 30 days, the full month of support. You're going to get your personalized roadmap, clarity on what to prioritize, what your body is saying it needs attention first. And we streamline. We're gonna pick out what are those 1 to 2 actions that are going to move the needle. This is not about overwhelm. It's exactly the opposite. Let's simplify, clarify, and get you momentum going. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today, ladies. Great to be here with you, Whitney and Nikki and Deirdre and Jessica and Stacy. I know you guys are chiming in on the live stream. Please, like I said, if you watch the replay, put replay in the chat so I can come back and answer any of your questions. If you're here live with me, you can put live. Great to see you live. I'll say hi to you as well. And look forward to seeing you again next Wednesday. Have a great day.